What's good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tsla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the overall market moving forward, talk about some very important levels to be watching for, and how things are looking in my personal opinion. But before I begin devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. You deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total. And the offer ends very soon, just about 2 weeks from now. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So the market's very mixed right now. We have different sectors moving very differently, as we're seeing a very, very big rotation right now out of tech and into more small caps. So we're starting to see a lot of tech stocks that are slowing down in this market. It's not really affecting the S&P 500 as much because the financial sector is still helping it quite a bit and other sectors are still holding up. But a lot of tech stocks are slowing down and we're starting to see a lot of small caps really starting to run. This is really helping the IWM continue to push as well. So I want to break down more information about this for the next couple of minutes, but let's first talk about some data. As a reminder, tomorrow is going to be Wednesday, July 17th, 2024. Please note that we don't really have too much data coming out for tomorrow. Everything is quite minor. We have Barkin giving a speech at about 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we also have some industrial and manufacturing numbers coming out around 9:15. Not to mention Waller giving a speech and then a few more. But everything else is very, very minor. Then we have the Fed Beige Book coming out at 2 p.m. But like I said before, guys, it's all very, very minor data. Nothing too crazy is coming out for tomorrow. So I don't really expect this to affect the market way too much. I think that technicals will be a lot more important for the next couple of days. On top of this, when it comes to earnings, as a reminder, tomorrow is going to be Wednesday. And for Wednesday, we actually have ASML announcing their earnings, not to mention Johnson Johnson and Ally Bank. And then we also have like United and Discover also announcing their earnings then. But for today, I went over the big bank earnings in the morning in my morning video. Just know that after the market closed, we just got a couple more like interactive brokers, and they actually did relatively well. So numbers just came out. Their EPS was $1.76, which is above expectations. Sales was at about $1.29 billion above expectations as well. Accounts have increased by about 28%, and the equity also increased about 36% for their customers. The share price is up right now. Pretty good data, at least so far. The last thing I'm going to talk about is this little gauge right over here about the fear and greed index. This is currently at greed as we're seeing a lot more buyers stepping in and defending the markets. We're also seeing momentum at extreme greed because once again, buyers are continuing to step in, defend the positions that they have. And this is continuing to help the market hold up as we're still holding with our key moving averages. On top of this, we have the puts and call option positioning still at extreme greed. For the 5-day average, it's still relatively low because we're continuing to see more and more of these buyers continuing to step in, and we're starting to see puts being closed as the ratio is dropping. Market volatility is also quite neutral. We're trying to break above our 50 daily moving average, but we're still holding up very, very well. Not really doing much. The VIX is attempting to break out, but it's not really affecting the market too much for now. So what do I see for the market moving forward? What do I want to tell you about the VIX and everything? I'll talk about that from this point on. Like I said before, the market's very mixed. Some stocks are strong, they're pushing, other stocks are weak. So what's happening with SPY, the S&P 500, etc.? We actually have a bullish wedge-like structure that's developing, and we're actually riding this big blue line right over here. This is going to be our bullish wedge that's forming. This is favoring upside more than downside. And this actually looks like it wants to push higher. So my personal opinion, what could happen is we could actually kind of dip a bit. So I did call it kind of like a pump and dump like move that did end up happening. But at the end of the day, the buyers did step in again. So we pumped and dumps today. We did see SPY dip all the way down to about 562, only to get bought back up. So the buyers came back at the very end of the day. So going into tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of pump in the morning, dip a little bit to retest this blue trend line, and we continue to ride this trend line upwards. This is our key support that SPY is continuing to ride, and it looks more bullish in my personal opinion. If we manage to break 465, it's going to be a tough resistance. We're usually going up to 566 and eventually 567.5 to hit new all-time highs. SPY is toying with the all-time highs, continuing to look very bullish, and it's favoring upside even more. When we look at bigger time frames, like the daily time frame, for example, we actually have a bullish looking structure that's still developing. We're continuing to break out right now, so this does favor upside more. If we turn bearish on SPY, you want to see this basically lose 560, and to be bullish, you want to see it break 565. As of right now, we're favoring a break above 565. We look more bullish, so this is still holding it very well, especially because of different sectors like financials. But for Nvda, and this is another tech stock, an example of one, you guys can see how it's looking kind of lackluster compared to the S&P 500 and others out there. Nvidia has key support at 125. If this breaks, we're looking for a move all the way down to 121. The resistance at 127. If that breaks, look for 129. With the head and shoulders like structure, this is favoring a move to 125 and basically a breakdown all the way down to the lower 120s. So this is looking a little bit more bearish to me, in my personal opinion. Bitcoin is also trying to uptrend right over here. If we continue to break out, watch 65,000. If that breaks, we're going up to 66,000, 67,500. I do favor upside for Bitcoin. It's still making higher highs and higher lows. And we're actually holding up nicely, so it could continue to push from here, looking pretty good. We need to lose basically 62,500 to turn more bearish. It hasn't really done so yet, and it's actually favoring upside in my personal opinion. For ES, I know a lot of people are interested in learning about ES. ES is actually looking more bullish. We're actually breaking towards all-time highs. We also have a nice looking structure. Now, I was worried about a little dip that was coming. We did dip a little bit only to get bought back up. Then we consolidated. It would just continue to hold above our 20 EMA. So it's looking a little bit more bullish to me. So I'm favoring that this might try to push up higher towards, we could get very close to about 5,730. So it's looking more bullish as well. Now, Tesla had this very, very interesting looking structure. I just want to call this out. We had this little channel that was developing. But what's interesting is we made an attempt to break it before coming back down. So we're kind of flat right now in the after hours. We're actually down a little bit. So I think what's going to happen is we might get a little dip on Tesla. We might see an attempt to kind of retest this little trend line like this. And then we'll have to see if Tesla gets a bounce or not. If we do come down to this 252 area to come very close to where this trend line happens to be for the channel, we could get a bounce back up to 260 plus and start to look for a very symmetrical inverse head and shoulders right over here. But if I end up losing 250, I'm going to be looking for a bigger move to the downside, and this trend will turn back to bearish. So look for a little dip. If we lose 250, we turn more bearish. If we hold it around 250 to 252, I think this is going to bounce back up, and we could be looking for a test of 260 again for a nice inverse head and shoulders, nice little symmetrical structure. That is very possible for Tesla as well. We will see what the move ends up being, but make sure you watch for this just to be safe. For Coinbase has resistance around 4. I'm sorry, not Coinbase, the QQQ. I'm going to talk about the QQQ, then Coinbase later. I apologize for that, guys. We actually have 496.8 as resistance. If this breaks, we'll be looking for a move all the way to about 497.6. That's where this imbalance is, and then we'll be going all the way up to higher levels. We have support at 494. If that breaks, I'll be looking for 492. Now, look at the last 3 days. It's kind of lackluster compared to SPY. We went up and down, up and down, up and a little bit lower. So it's looking like it might consolidate and just trade sideways for now. Might see a little pop tomorrow back just under 498, reject back down to 494, and just continue to trade sideways. I think that's what the QQQ will do. And if we lose 494, there could be a bigger dip coming, but I think we're just going to see a lot of consolidation. I'm not really expecting too much. So the reason I'm saying that this is very important is because as we're just trading sideways, it's very lackluster compared to many of the S&Ps and others out there. So I think that's going to be very, very important, at least for us for now. So I think that the NASDAQ and the QQQ are looking a little bit more lackluster, so they're going to see some sideways price action. Same thing with other tech stocks like Aapl. Aapl could push up for about this 235 area. Might see a little bit of a pop. I'm not expecting it to push as high because we're really lacking volume on Aapl. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually see Aapl rebound to about 235, then dip back down to 233 and just continue to consolidate, not really do anything too crazy. To be bullish, you want to break past 237, but I don't think it's going to do that quite yet. I think we're going to pop a bit and just consolidate, and we'll see how things go from there. With that being said, I want to go over a few more. So another stock is like NEO. It's currently consolidating within this wedge, but the structure is quite bullish, especially on the 4-hour. Let me just pull up the 4-hour real quick. This stock might get a breakout soon if we break past 5. If we break 5, yes, we could go higher, but we also have this pennant. So I think we're going to either consolidate for a bit and then possibly break out higher as long as we remain bullish and break past 5, or we could just break out from here. So there's potential in this stock, but I want to see what kind of reaction we get from the pennant. For Palantir, in my opinion, is kind of dipping a little bit, but it's not looking too bad. It's going to likely test its 20 EMA, 28.13. So a little bit of a dip, and we'll see if we get a bounce or not. Like I said about a lot of tech stocks, even some semiconductors were showing some signs of a little bit of weakness. Even Palantir showing a little bit of weakness. Look for 28.13. We'll see if it bounces off that or not. If we lose that, we'll be dipping all the way down to where this wick is, 27.5. And if we hold this, we could try to rebound. I'm seeing some weakness right over there. Supermicro is looking kind of weak on the 4-hour time frame. It was trying to rebound, but I do see it dipping a little bit lower. I think it's going to be retesting 867 and eventually 856, that range, before it tries to bounce again. But look for a little bit of a dip and then some consolidation is the most likely possibility. Rivian did end up dipping like we talked about earlier before trying to bounce back up. So I mentioned that we might test our 20 EMA, then try to rebound. We came a little bit short of that target. We ended up bouncing off 17 flat. So now it's holding up. We could be looking for a push for a break past 18.36. So I think there could be a little bit of a bounce coming right over here to push back up. And it's looking pretty good right here. Might try to break through the high, forming a very, very nice looking cup and handle like structure. Looking pretty good in my personal opinion. SoFi remains bullish, especially after the bank earnings. I did mention to everyone that this chart remains bullish. Looks bullish to me. I was expecting at least 7.8 to be tested, and we actually came very close to that target, so I think it's going to be testing $8 soon. The Russell is looking very bullish. I think that this will continue to break out. Look at 225 as some resistance. We'll see if we get a little pullback or not off of that. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but whether it happens or not, it doesn't matter. This is easily going to the 240s. I think the 240s are coming for the Russell. We could dip a little bit first before we try to bounce, or we could just break out from here, but the 240s should be coming very soon. For AMD, I think it's going to try to rebound a bit and retest this resistance at 178. If you get a big rejection, we're going to be tipping all the way down to where this gap is towards 172. If you break through this, we're going to be making a nice bounce. AMD is going to likely pop a little bit to 178.97 and see if we get a rejection or not. I'll be watching for that very, very carefully. For ARM, it's the same setup. Watch for a test of 179. If that breaks, we have this imbalance to fill around 181. If this rejects, we'll be tipping all the way down towards 172. As of right now, it's kind of on a bit of a downtrend. We had this high here, kind of like a double top. We're making lower highs and lower lows, so we could continue to dip, but watch this very, very carefully. For Coinbase, we're actually pushing up very, very nicely. We have a nice double bottom-like structure. This, in my opinion, could lead to a little bit more upside as you have this imbalance to fill up here towards 255. So I think what's going to happen is Coinbase might dip just a little bit. We could retest this breakout area around 247.5 to 248, and then we could bounce higher and start breaking out for 255. That's very probable in my personal opinion. For Amazon, we're kind of rejecting off this trend line, and we're actually now kind of downtrending below our 20 EMA. So I'm going to be looking at this very, very critical support right over here, which is where we're trying to hold up, very close to this 192.8 area. So I think that's going to be our key support. And if that fails, we'll be dipping all the way down towards the previous resistance, which is now support around 191. So I'm thinking what's going to happen is we might consolidate here around 192.75, and we might actually dip a little bit lower towards about 191. There might be a little dip coming to Amazon before he attempts to make a move back up, but I do see a little bit of downside, if anything. For Meta is actually below its 200 EMA, so I think that 485 maybe tested this imbalance, and if that breaks, I think we're coming all the way down towards about 470, basically the 480 area. So I favor downside a little bit more. It's looking a little bit weak to me on Meta. We also lost our 200 EMA, which is another sign of weakness. So I'm favoring a move all the way down to the lower 480s before he attempts to break back up. For a few more, we have Microsoft, which is on a bit of a downtrend, have double top-like structure. Still continuing to dip. I think this might actually kind of dip down lower. We could be making our way down here towards 446. And if that fails us, I think that 442 is coming next. So it still looks more bearish. I think it's possible we rebound just a bit before we see that move down. So look for that. But overall, the structure is more bearish. A little rebound, then a rebound to about the 450 area, then a rejection back down lower towards 446 is very probable. Looks kind of bearish to me. Google's looking more bearish as well. Kind of looks like a head and shoulders and a big rejection here. Could be tipping down to this imbalance as well to 184.8, eventually lower levels. GameStop is looking bullish. We got a nice breakout right over here, especially as we're up another 5%. So I think that we're going to be looking for the 30 to be tested. If this breaks, we'll be looking for a move all the way up to 32. Looks very bullish in my personal opinion, especially on the daily chart. AMC is looking more bullish as well, trying to break out. I think we might see a lot of memes start to run again off this inverse head and shoulders. Could be looking for a push for 5.8 very soon. Pretty good in my personal opinion. DJT is still continuing to drop. It's trying to push into after hours. I think we might be testing our 4-hour 20 EMA soon. So it might eventually dip down towards 35. So look for a little bit of a dip. It might consolidate for a bit, then eventually drop a little bit lower. And we'll see what kind of move we make from there. The VIX is trying to break out, but like I said before, it's barely just shuffling around our 200 EMA. There were times where we did this and just ended up rejecting, so we will see if this leads to the market pulling back or not. As of right now, it's just shuffling. This isn't much of a breakout. It's only up 0.5%, which is not much. So we'll see how things go. And I have just two more. The 10-year Treasury yield is just continuing to dip, which is once again helping the market push higher. The dollar is barely yet supported around 104. We'll see if the dollar gets a bounce or not as well. But if we lose 104, look for a bigger dip. Once again, favoring upside for the markets. With that being said, I want to thank you all so much for listening. I hope you guys have an absolutely incredible rest of the day. Just know that right now, many stocks that they remain bullish, but some tech stocks are looking a lot more bearish, which is because of the fact that there's a big rotation in this market. And it's having a big effect on how we're moving. So I just want to say I really appreciate you guys for your attentions. Please have an absolutely incredible rest of the day. And just remember that as far as the market goes, we're seeing something that's very, very different. We're starting to see other stocks like the Dow trying to play a game of keep up. And we're starting to see another big of a shift that's happening right over here. So I just want to talk about a few more things actually before I finish the video. From this point on, I just want to mention that there's not really a whole lot of crazy data for the remainder of the week. We have initial jobless claims on Thursday, just a bunch of Fed speakers, and then Friday is also very minor. So it's going to be a very quiet data week. But then next week, the week after this one, that's when we have a lot of bigger tech earnings. That's when we have like Tesla announcing earnings and others. So I think next week will be a lot more intense. But for the remainder of the week, most of the data is going to be very, very minor. And this does give the market more leeway to go higher. So I think that the S&P 500 is going to outperform, but we're going to likely see the NASDAQ kind of underperform because of a lot of these tech stocks that are slowing down. Money's exiting them and entering financials, not to mention big tech. I'm sorry, not big tech. It's entering the small caps and the IWM, and that's where we're seeing this really, really big shift right here. I also want to let you guys know that energy is going to likely see a lot more potential moves with the election coming up. So I'll be paying a lot of attention to energy. So we're going to be looking for a very, very interesting market, a lot of shifts that are coming, and we'll have to see how things go from here. But with that being said, just know, guys, the market's in a very, very interesting place. We're starting to see a lot more momentum that's shifting, and we're starting to see a lot more buyers that are stepping in and continuing to defend their positions. So we'll see how things go for the markets, at least moving forward. I'll be back tomorrow morning before the market opens. I'll try to upload a video. I also want to say, guys, that I try to upload my videos like really early in the morning, but I have some issues sometimes. It takes a while for my videos to process. That's why sometimes I upload my videos like 10 to 15 minutes before market open. Sometimes I end up uploading them just like a few minutes before open. It depends on how long things take to process. This could vary depending on different factors. So that's the thing that kind of slows me down sometimes. So I am sorry about that. I will try my best to try to be earlier, but I don't want to be way too early at the same time because when I am way too early, I like to upload my videos as close to market open as possible, just so that it's as accurate as what could really happen, because a lot could change in about 30 minutes. So, it's a little bit tricky, but I'll do my best, guys, to just upload my videos earlier and just try to get them to process as fast as I can. And just try to get things, out there as soon as I can from my morning videos. So once again, I just want to say I really appreciate you guys for your kind comments. People ask me about starting a Discord. I can't really do that right now because I'm actually very busy during the day. I only take limited time off for trading, and then the time I take off is what I use for YouTube, but I'm oftentimes busy with the work that I do. I actually run a business and I have a lot of other things that take up a lot of my time. So I do the best I can to be as active as I can be, and I want to provide as much free content as possible. I don't really want to sell courses or do anything like that. I just want to provide free value for you guys. And I just want to continue to do so for as long as I possibly can. So that being said, thank you for listening. Have a very, very great night, a great evening, a great day, wherever you guys are around the world. And I'll once again see you guys tomorrow before the market ends up opening. Have a great day and peace out.